are about to enter the world of radio-controlled aeromodeling. As we will see, it is a world of diversity, and the species of model airplanes that populate this fantastic place are as various as the species that grow in a field full of wildflowers. Yet, despite the variety on display in this hobby, there are certain common bonds that bind all radio-control aeromodelers together. For they share an admiration for each other's abilities to design, to construct, and to fly. They share in the fun of watching their colorful models blaze graceful trails in the ocean of air. And deep inside themselves, each RC flyer knows that when their gem-like creations cut the bonds of Earth to climb the powder blue sky ceiling, what they are witnessing in reality may be model airplanes in flight, but in a more romantic sense, what they are witnessing is the flight of diamonds in the sky. In the aeromodeling fraternity, some planes stand out as the hope diamonds of creativity. Huge models, such as this C-130 cargo plane and this Stinson trimotor, are rare gems indeed. But while models such as these are amazing to contemplate, they are not creations that are easy to emulate. For in building these models, much expense and special engineering is involved.
In fact, these models are well outside of normal and recommended practices. They require special safety inspections and flying procedures, and they are beyond the weight limit for insurance coverage by the AMA.
However, when such giants get ready to lift off, all the travails, trials, and tribulations become lost in the swell of pride that accompanies these big birds down the runway. This C-130 is one of the world's largest model airplanes. Built to 1/4 scale, it is powered by 4 chainsaw engines and flies on a 20-foot wingspan with a majesty and grace that transcends its size and weight. Naturally, much space is needed to fly this monster model, and it is never flown in close proximity to the many onlookers it gathers. But when it does fly, builder Bob Campbell's model of the Blue Angels support plane becomes a mammoth among all the diamonds in the sky. A quite different facet of the world of aeromodeling is the sport of pylon racing. Pylon races are built for speed and maneuverability. The objective of pylon racing, as stated in the AMA Official Model Aircraft Regulations Handbook, is to run competitive multiple plane races around a course in order to capture the spirit and thrills of the great air races of the past and present. And that will be interesting for spectators, as well as challenging for the contestants. Anyone who has witnessed an RC Pylon race knows that these objectives are, more often than not, quite easily met. Because these models travel so fast, the pilot must concentrate only on the plane while working closely with his caller, who tells him when to turn as he reaches the pylon. The first team to finish the prescribed amount of laps is declared the winner, and the excitement bubbles from start to finish. Much more relaxing, much quieter and more bucolic in setting, is one of RC's newer facets, that of flying electric rather than gas-powered models. Electric models come in all shapes and sizes, and they are steadily gaining in popularity. For RC modelers who are familiar only with gas-powered airplanes, there are many unique ideas, new construction techniques, and new types of equipment to discover. Electric model flying is relatively easy to master, and the models are not too complicated, as expert Bob Kopsky explains.
This is a typical simple installation in a simple electric airplane. The total weight of this plane is about 36 ounces when it has the wing on. The radio installation is lightweight because it has small servos. There is a small battery which is not visible here. The receiver does not have a case on it, and that saves a little bit of weight. The large battery that's in sight is the battery for the motor, and this happens to be 6 cells, and the total battery weighs 12 ounces. So you can see that that's about a third of the weight of the airplane. It's the fuel tank, and it's the most important part of the installation because that's what gives you your power and the time that you're going to get in flying. Most power flyers are used to seeing a fuel tank under the hatch. In this case, there's just a little bit of wiring. It may look complicated, but it's several interconnects and a fuse and a switch. A motor end bell is visible. There are 2 wires going to that, and it's really very simple when you have it all apart. There's a charging jack on the side of the airplane, which is used to connect your external charger to the battery, and that is used for about 15 minutes to fill up the tank. The total power installation weight is about 18 ounces, so it's about half the weight of the airplane, and that's typical for most electrics. One difference that is true with electrics compared with gas is that the hatch on this plane is more than a hatch. It's an air scoop as well. And it's not obvious when the hatch is off, but in flight, air will be picked up by the scoop part of the hatch and routed through the battery with the wing in place, and then it will exit, in this case, out the bottom of the fuselage. Those holes that you see are located at the cell intersections, and the exiting air cools the battery during flight. Ordinarily, the battery, if it were not cooled, would become very, very hot and lose efficiency. Electric does not have all of the power that a comparable weight gas installation will have, and that is certainly true. A lot of people point that out as, oh, electric's no good because it doesn't have enough power. Well, what does enough power mean? You can look around the field here and you can see that there are plenty of planes flying very well with the power that's available. People comment that electric is too heavy. Well, what does that mean? Again, look around. It is true that an electric installation in today's technology in a given plane is certainly heavier and less powerful than gas. But you have to remember that today's gas engines are not what they were 20 years ago either. So while they have progressed because of the passage of time and have become very, very powerful per weight, electric is comparatively just beginning. I think electric makes a better flyer out of a modeler because a modeler has to learn to fly on the wing. One just doesn't pull back on the stick and have the plane climb in the fashion it would with plenty of gas power because you don't have plenty of electric power. So I've seen many gas modelers come out and try their first electric and pull back on the stick and have some disappointment because it will not blow a hole in the sun. It has to be flown up and usually at a lot slower pace. But there is still plenty of power to have plenty of good flying, and you can just look around and see that. Electric offers an opportunity to do something new and different. Modeling has grown over the years because of new and different things. I mean, just not too long ago, there was no RC. In fact, even before that, there were no gas engines. So it's been a growth for the hobby, and electric is part of that growth. It just happens to be happening now.
And no doubt, this clean and quiet part of the RC hobby will continue to grow as new enthusiasts decide to give it a try. So in the future, one can expect to see more electric-powered diamonds in the sky. Another relatively new addition to the RC hobby is model helicopter flying. The first successful helicopter flights were accomplished indoors in 1970 and outdoors in 1971. The mechanisms involved in this discipline are quite complex, and all adjustments are critical. There are many maneuvers done in model helicopter flying, such as hovers, loops, rolls, vertical eights,
and chandelles.
In fact, model choppers can perform some maneuvers that the full-size machines cannot perform, such as inverted flight. However easy helicopter flying may look, it is much more difficult than it seems. The transition from model airplane flying to helicopter flying is difficult because a certain amount of new learning must be done. The reason for this is that for the same controls on the radio control box, different functions are performed for helicopters versus those performed for fixed-wing craft. For example, hitting the throttle control on the helicopter doesn't make it go forward faster, it makes it go up. In order to make a banked turn with a conventional model airplane, either the rudder or the aileron may be used. But with a helicopter, the main and the tail rotor must be operated together. Nevertheless, once the basics are mastered and the choppers are airborne, there is much fun to be had in flying the whirlybirds. If the model airplanes and helicopters we've seen thus far are considered to be diamonds in the sky, then the people who fly aerobatic or pattern ships should be considered the diamond cutters. For it is these people whose objective it is to control by radio a model airplane so that various planned maneuvers may be accomplished. And just what are these maneuvers? Well, there are 37 in AMA's rulebook, with such names as avalanche, cobra roll, double Immelman, and Cuban 8, all with varying degrees of difficulty attached. For RC pattern flyers, it's not enough just to know how to perform the maneuvers. Indeed, they must be able to perform them with a quality of execution that is judged in comparison to specific geometric descriptions and procedures. Or, to put it another way, they must strive to perform with complete precision, much like a gem cutter who is about to cleave the first facet in a rare and perfect multi-carat diamond. When they get it right, these RC flyers can put together a performance that sparkles and glitters. In the hobby of RC flying, the most flawless gems of all may be found in the category of scale. Quite simply, a scale RC model is a replica of a heavier-than-air man-carrying aircraft. Only prototype aircraft that actually made flights may be selected as subject for competitive modeling. This particular area of the hobby has given birth to some of the most exquisite examples of miniature aircraft imaginable. Some of these models are so precise, so perfect, such exact duplicates of the full-scale airplanes that without a frame of reference, it would be difficult to tell which was which. Models such as this one take many, many hours to plan and to construct. But when they are completed, the degree of detail exhibited is truly breathtaking. Cockpits are fully instrumented, often with working gauges and dials. Original materials and color schemes are used whenever possible. This Lockheed Orion, once flown by the Detroit News, even comes with a scale model typewriter and tufted leather seats. While fidelity to detail is of utmost importance to the AMA scale model flyer, none of the painstaking work pays off if the planes don't fly. When these marvelous miniatures taxi down the runway and take to the sky, it's difficult to imagine any way they could look more realistic. Every RC scale model event has its crowd pleaser. This Messerschmitt 163 is just such a model. A replica of the first operational rocket-powered plane ever used, this German fighter was introduced at the end of World War II. Had it been available earlier in the war, many feel that the end results of that conflict could quite conceivably have been different. Scale RC model airplanes come in a variety of sizes according to personal preferences. There is no getting around the fact that the larger sizes draw the lion's share of the attention, for they are poetry in repose, as well as poetry in motion. For RC scale modelers, no plane is too old and none is too modern to try to duplicate. In this particular setup, the space shuttle is a scale model, but the launch plane is not. Nevertheless, the performance of the two aircraft together is a treat for all to enjoy. This scale B-29 bomber has many examples of the working options modelers install in their creations in order to make them seem ever more realistic. Highly engineered operational flaps and an operational bomb bay with bombs enhances the illusion of reality. Radio-controlled retractable landing gear will garner points in competition, as will other options, such as working airspeed indicators, working radios, and working headphones for miniature pilots. But once again, it must be remembered that the most unique of scale duplications is only meaningful if the aircraft performs in the air. In the world of scale modeling, there are many wonderful and amazing sights to behold. This PBM is a replica of a patrol bomber which was manufactured by the Martin Aircraft Company. It is a beautifully scaled, large-sized model that becomes truly awesome when it bursts skyward with jet-assisted takeoff. The pressure of aerobatic flying, the kinetic energy and excitement of pylon racing, the complexity of helicopter maneuvers, and the inspiring realism of scale aircraft that are detailed like Swiss watches. Each of these facets of RC aero modeling has much to recommend it. But for those mellow people who find their joy in the peaceful contemplation of pure flight and graceful design, perhaps the world of RC soaring and sailplanes is perfect. To be sure, the sailplane portion of the hobby has its competitive edge, and the flyers may be judged in a variety of tasks, combining duration, precision landing, and, in some cases, distance. As these long-winged, slender birds are launched into the robin's egg sky, they seek to become windwalkers, to find rising thermal currents of air that will hold them aloft and allow them to glide and flow from horizon to horizon. Soaring meets may encompass a variety of competitions, such as a contest in which the flyer tries to remain aloft for a specified amount of time, and then bring his craft to rest as close as possible to a predetermined landing spot. The distance task has an objective of flying as many laps as possible in a specified time limit between two parallel lines a set distance apart. Pure duration is just what it seems, a competition to remain airborne as long as possible. But perhaps the purest form of this sport and RC in general lies outside competition. In all the facets of radio-controlled flying, it is the communication that exists between the flyer and his aircraft. The one is earthbound, but vicariously feeling the glorious joy of flight through the movements of the other, which is a controlled but unthinking object. It's fun to wonder what message the unthinking object would send back to the earthbound one if it had the power to do so. Might the message go like this? Out, out where the wind went, where all was cloud and golden light. Gazing aloft at me, you sent the messages that gave me flight. And I climbed higher in the vault of blue, then sent this message back to you. I'm here, above. I'm flying high, a brilliant diamond in the sky. Brought by the wind, your answer came. I know, I feel the same. Then together we sang, and our voice was a sigh. We are as one. We are flying high, like brilliant diamonds in the sky.